Some years ago, I rode a bicycle from Germany all the way across the Alps into Italy, through France, through Spain, to Portugal, to Porto, all the way along the Portuguese coast, over to Morocco, all the way through the Sahara Desert, through a number of African countries, including Senegal, and up the Gambia River, all the way up the Gambia River. And when I was in the Gambia, I learned an awful lot about the problems of society, how it originated, how the problems originated, what caused the problems in the first place, and the fact that these problems were not going to be solved, and what was going to happen to these people who were living in the countryside of the Gambia was they were simply going to lose their homes. Their homes were going to be taken over by big machine agriculture, and they were just going to be dispossessed from the land. And the only place for them to go was the slums of the cities, really, and the slums of our cities in England and other parts of Europe, which they've all now the young men aspire to come here to escape from a living hell over there, because there's nothing that they can actually do in the Gambia. It doesn't work. Just doesn't work. Now, I'm going to explain to you how the problem was caused, who caused the problem, and perhaps some ideas about fixing it. I don't know. We'll see. Comes out. I don't know what I'm going to say before I say it. The dog's barking. Okay, we start at the beginning. The dog, the biggest dog of all, was the roads. They built the roads. Now, you don't need roads. It's interesting. You don't need roads, and you'll see that roads. Once you've got roads, you have to have cars. Once you've got cars, you have to have petrol, and you have to travel about. And all these things are basically forcing people into cities and away from the land, okay, and away from the animals. And it's necessary to be together with the animals. We don't realize that we've lost paradise. We can't be in paradise without the animals. And you can't have horses and roads that just don't go together. It's the end of it, really. So let's go back to Africa before they built the road, because only one road in the Gambia. There used to be a river. The Gambia is just a river, hundreds of kilometers long, miles long, a river. And the country is just a river. It's just a river and a few square kilometers around the river. It's an unnatural kind of a country, really, because the river is in Senegal, and the Gambia is completely surrounded by Senegal. If you look at the map, it looks like the mouth of Senegal. And it was used in the slave trade to transport the slaves. So the British created this state of the Gambia. It's one of the few places in Africa that speaks English. And they took this place because it was a good place to sail your slave ships into and pick up the slaves. Okay. And so that was its function. It was just a single state, a river state. And it didn't need roads because the river flows, the tidal flow of the river goes in both directions. So it goes one way and then it goes the other way. And so to go down the Gambia, all you need to do is, when the tide's going up, you move with the tide, and when the tide turns and is against you, you put your anchor down and you wait. It doesn't matter which way you're going, that will work. Yeah. Take it upstream or downstream. And so a boat is an easy thing to make. It's made out of the wood of the area. So they had boats, and they made their houses out of mud bricks. So they had a lot of mud. There was a lot of mud, easily accessible mud. You just had to dig this mud, and because the whole of the Gambia is low lying. I think the highest part of it is about 40 meters above sea level. So to make a house, you had to make a lot of blocks. Okay, and they had a little wooden former, and you put you just spade the mud into the former and tip it out, and like making mud pies, you just make blocks like this, and you work a day, work a few days, work a few weeks, work a few months, and you've got enough blocks. They dry in the sun. You've got enough blocks to build your house. Yeah. So these blocks are put together and into a circle, because the houses are round, because in the natural order all houses are round or oval, and if you make a house that's square, it's a sign to show you got it wrong. That's what nature does. Nature marks it incorrectly. And all the beehives used to be round. We used to make round beehives. Now they're square. It's to show that we got it wrong with the bees. You can't put bees in square hives. It's just not allowed. But man must do it, must put them in square hives to show that he's made a mistake. Now, the round houses, once they build the walls of the round houses, the floor was just mud. It's just like, natural mud on the ground, I suppose. They had a bit of mud to it, make a floor. And for the wood, you would get the local trees. There's very good mahogany trees in the area, beautiful wood. And these can be split using metal tools, and they had the ability to make metal tools, which they don't have anymore. The blacksmith is gone. And they would use wedges to split the wood and split it into lengths and pieces that they could then use to go all the way around the little house. And then they put grass, they cut grass. At a certain time of the year, a lot of grass grows, good for roofing. It's free. You just go and help yourself. You help yourself to wood, you help yourself to the grass. You make the grass roof, and there you go. You've got a house. It hasn't cost you anything. It's just been part of your everyday activity, and every 15 years you have to put the roof on again. Metal roofs are no better. Metal roofs also need replacing. Yet people thought, when they sold the idea to the Africans, that they could have metal roofs on their houses and they wouldn't need to do the thatching, they wouldn't need to use the grass. Okay, they saw this as a saving because they didn't like to have to re-roof every 10 or 15 years. So a lot of them put tin roofs on their little round houses, and they found out that the tin roofs didn't last as long as they expected. They were sold them as if this will last forever. You know, it's like a salesman trying to sell an African a tin roof. He's going to be conning him, right? And so it takes him 15 years to find out that he has to buy it again, and he hasn't got the money to buy it again. It was a one-off plan, that he had to fix a roof forever. And so now you've got them dependent upon money. You need money. You can't just go and take a piece of tin, and when it's all rusty, and what you're going to do with the rusted piece of stuff, it doesn't really decompose very well. It pollutes the environment. Okay. The mud blocks, when the rain comes, if the house falls down, it just disappears into the ground. After a few years, it's gone completely. And okay, so we get back to the road. Now, they built the road so that they could take out the resources from the interior of Africa. That's why they built it. And so and they could sell stuff, bring stuff in, bring steel roofing in, and take logs out. Okay, this is how you subjugate a people to the almighty dollar. All right. So the first criminals of the Gambia were the truck drivers. Okay, because they sold themselves out. That was the first money. Okay, so the truck drivers drove the globalist trucks and were paid to do it, and they brought the first money into the villages. Before, there was no money. It was just what you had. You had animals, you grew your crops, and you made your houses, and you didn't need money at all. And you were living in paradise. You were completely free. Okay? And these people lived communally. They didn't compete with one another. They helped each other. Okay? There wasn't money. Now everybody needs money, and they're so scarce to get money in the Gambia. You have no idea how difficult it is just to get a penny in Gambia. And you can't go to, you need to go to town to get what you need. And that means a taxi ride, a bus ride, and that means money. You can't live in the Gambia anymore without money, right? Since they built the roads. And so it was a tragedy for me to go there and watch this. And I realized that the problem was the money. They had no way to generate money except a con job. You know, you buy old Western clothes and sell them on the side of the road. You know these clothes that you see people say, give your clothes, we'll send them to Africa. You think they're going to give them to the Africans. No. What happens is they sell the bale of clothing at a certain price. Somebody buys the bale of clothing. Now they got a business. Now they sort out the bale, and they got a mixture. You know, they either got lucky or they got not lucky, and half of it ends up in a landfill, and half of it gets sold to people who have hardly any money. And what that does is then now that destroys the livelihood of the tailors who make the clothes. Now they've got no work anymore because they can't make clothing. It just destroys everything, yeah. And so instead of people doing useful things, they're buying and selling. They become merchants, which is the lowest possible class of person in society. Somebody who buys and sells, makes money out of it. That's the lowest. It always was. The merchant was always the lowest class. Below the craftsman. And so the solution to the problem in Africa really is to go back to being craftsmen and living off what is naturally present in the environment, and only creating what we can create with the natural raw materials that we have open to us, and eating what grows there. Now, the problem with this is that they've lost the blacksmith. Okay, the blacksmith is not there anymore. There are people that can work with welding equipment and electricity and stuff like that. But that all costs money. The true blacksmith who lights a fire and melts the metal, the old tin roofs somehow, I suppose, and makes the tools that they're going to need to till the soil and to split the wood and to do what they need. They've lost that art now. And so the way to help the Africans is for these people who are learning, they're learning blacksmithing in London. They're learning it in Hereford. They're learning it in England. For some reason, they're interested in the art of blacksmithing because these people can go to Africa and do it and bring it back to the Africans so the Africans can be self-sufficient outside of the cities. Now, I had an idea that these places, that we could go back to nature in Africa, in these places which are outside the cities, are very poor, and we could make parks out of them so that people could come from overseas, from all over the world, and come and see these parks where people are living in a natural state, and to see, and let's see how they develop. Let it be an experiment to see how would it be if we just allowed these people, and we didn't introduce all these machines into the population, and how would it be if we just had one area in the Gambia where people could just live naturally and other people could come and see, and then they could do a scientific, it's like a scientific experiment. Is it better here or is it better in the city? Yeah? Let the city develop as it wants to develop, and then let's see, is one better than the other? But don't just turn the whole country upside down and sort of expect it to sort itself out, and you know, and lose this wonderful way of life forever. Because if we find out it's better, the whole country could go back to it if it wanted to. You know? Anyway, there's a festival of blacksmithing on Herefordshire, and I need to go. It's the 15th of March. I've had this for a while. It came through my door, and it's only in a few days' time. It's this weekend, so I'm going to be going over to this festival over here, and I'm going to give people at this festival a card of some sort that points to this video so that they can actually watch this video. And there's other videos I've made, there's one or two other videos I've made about the African problem. Perhaps I can link to that as well. And I have an idea that to sail my little boat back to the Gambia and go and visit this place that I started and talk to the people again and find out how we can progress this idea of making a human park in Kunda and Sare Mamedu in the Gambia, West Africa. Okay, thanks for watching.